I'm Timothy Gassen. They call me the AZ Puckman. I've covered hockey in Arizona for more than 3 decades.
You might be another man's treasure, but you know that I'll pick you some more. You might be another man's pleasure, but you know that you walk through my door. But suddenly it's Sunday and you've gone, and suddenly the sun seems to be all gone. And suddenly it's Sunday and you've gone away. You can't be just anyone's treasure, 'cause you know that you've always been mine. You can't be just anyone's pleasure, 'cause your love takes so long just to find. But suddenly it's Sunday and you've gone, and suddenly the summer seems to be too long. And suddenly it's Sunday and you've gone away, away. And suddenly it's Sunday and you've gone, and suddenly the sun's shadows seem all gone. And suddenly it's Sunday and you've gone away. And suddenly the wind seems to be too strong, and suddenly the week seems to be too long. And suddenly it's Sunday and you've gone away, 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 away.
All right, welcome in, hockey fans in the desert Southwest. Tucson, Arizona is the spot this week. Tom Callahan is with me. Tom, I get a call from you on Saturday morning, and I didn't really want to answer it, to be honest with you. I knew what was coming. You and I text.
Yeah.
We knew what was going on, but we lost a close friend. I thought about it Saturday. I think I was kind of in shock. Sunday I was kind of in shock. I thought, what am I going to do? It has to be a tribute to Tim Gassen, who we lost this last weekend. And I started thinking, I'm going like, this isn't right? Tim introduced me to you when
Yeah.
you came here.
Yeah, he did.
Now you're making a phone call to me that I didn't want to answer, and I'm going like, this isn't the way things are supposed to work out here. But let's start it off this way. When I say the name Tim Gassen, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
And hockey, you know, the Tim loved hockey. And I said this, I'm not big on posting social media stuff, but I did post something just on my Instagram, just for people who know me. That's not anything that's public, but I said, you know, Tim was a guy who wore many hats, but under all of them was a good guy who loved the game.
Right.
And he loved hockey, and, you know, he was a great colleague, but an even better friend. You know, that's always what I'm going to think of when I think of Tim. I thought of him a bunch of times this week. Something it would happen. I'd be like, oh, I need to text him. And it's just, he's always going to be there.
Right.
You know, I've spent, you know, my entire time in Tucson here is linked to him.
Right.
And just, you know, he's just so passionate about the sport and about his knowledge and the history of it. And, you know, we clicked over me spending time in Indy, and obviously Tim is a big, you know, Indianapolis guy and wrote that book on the racers. And we just had a lot in common and a lot to talk about, but he just loved the game. He loved this team. He loved the A. And his Ohio State Buckeyes.
Right.
And, you know, that's what I'm always gonna remember, and he's just always gonna be there in my back pocket with me no matter where I go.
You know what? He was so far-reaching that people don't realize how many people he touched. And as I was going through the weekend and contemplating everything, I was going like, I'm going to do a tribute show specifically for Tim. And I started thinking, who can I reach out to? And I started thinking about different people, and I thought, I can get this person. And then what came to mind was Tim had told me a funny story about everybody, right? So I started going down this list, and I asked everybody, I said, will you come on and be in this tribute show with me? Because I have a funny story that Tim told me about you. And we all know Tim liked to joke. Had a chance to visit with Coach Powers, and I brought that up, and he jumped in for about 3 or 4 minutes and wouldn't quit talking about it. And we got done with the whole conversation, and he was telling me about Tim growing up in Indianapolis and going to his same high school and all the way back, right? But we finished, and I said, Coach, I said, I'm going to tell you that the thing with Tim Gassen that sticks with me is reality, right? Because good or bad, Tim told it the way it was. It was real, right? And Coach looked at me, and he said, you know what? He said, I stormed around all weekend because we had a tie on Saturday night. And he said about 9 o'clock Saturday night, I kicked myself in the shin, and I said, this is a game. He said, let's go back to reality. We just lost somebody that was very dear to hockey. And he said, I'm moping around pouting about a tie. He said, it's a game. Let's just go on with life. Tim was that guy, right? I mean, he would tell you what it was like, and he wouldn't be afraid to, but he was also there to crack a joke and do something funny. And I know you've got a ton of stories because you spent a ton of time with him. I'm thumbing through stuff on my file, right? And I see so many pictures of you and Tim in the booth, whether it be Roadrunners, whether it be U of A, and you guys were inseparable your time here. Tell me something funny from Tim Gassen.
Oh my, there's a lot of Tim's stories. He was, and you think, Tim was with me like the entire time with the Roadrunners. The very very opening night. This true story. I almost lost the tip of my finger to a camera platform. The platform wasn't set up where it needed to be, and I was trying to help move it. I'm there in my suit, and I'm trying to help some of the news anchors, I didn't even know their names yet, move this platform, and it was really, really, really heavy, and I had one corner, and the guy who had the other corner on my side dropped it. And so it ended up doing a lot of damage to my fingers, but I didn't lose anything. But I remember, so this is, I want to say maybe an hour before face-off. Right. So I come downstairs, I get bandaged up over with the EMTs, and I'm sweating like crazy. Like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. Just give me some ice, bandage this up, do what you need to do. They're like, you need to go for stitches later. I'm like, fine, but I can't. There's a game right now. So I go back upstairs, and Tim's like, are you okay? I said, yes, Tim, I'm fine. He's like, no. Are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm fine. He goes, no, I get it. You're a hockey player. You're okay. But are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. He's like, just, I'm sitting there bleeding all over the place. The gauze is leaking like crazy. And he's like, oh, I get it. You're a hockey player. But it was just, that was, Tim cared. Right. He really did care. And that was the beginning. That was before we even got to be friends, got to know each other. We were just starting to work together. And it's just a million little things like that where Tim and I would have, just a lot of those inside hockey type of jokes or just things, and he could say something and I could razz him about the Buckeyes or Indianapolis or the WHA or anything like that. But we could also, we'd play spot the jersey in the crowd and look at all the different things. We'd always try to come up with the strangest jersey at a Roadrunners game or a U of A game. And we just had fun, right. It was fun. And that's something that, quite frankly, for me, I think the last couple of years had kind of been missing. Yeah. I wasn't enjoying it as much. And so there were times where Tim really made me just kind of stop and go, hey, you know what? Like, we all love this game. We're all here for a reason. And it's because of hockey. And he made me kind of appreciate it again.
Well, I've been telling everybody that I have funny stories. I mean, I could tell you about 50 that he's told me about you and him and things he's done. But one of the things that I got the most kick out of, and I told everybody this too, that no matter what I did, he would go, hey, that was pretty good, but you can do better. and then I'd say, I'm so frustrated. I'm not making any money at this. I love what I'm doing, but I'm not making any money. He'd go, you cannot quit. You understand it? And it would be like every summer I'd get that message. You get like, do you need to come down here?
Yep.
We'd go back and forth. But one of the things that he was most proud of is when he was able to get you to do color for him. And I remember the first text I got when he got you to do that. He goes, "You are not going to believe this." I'm going like, "I'm not going to believe what?" He goes, "I have got Tom Callahan doing color for me. I'm the play-by-play guy. He's the color." And I'm going like, I mean, it was classic.
I don't even know that I added much color. The first couple of games, I just kind of sat there and gave it the old, You know, that's about all I was getting in edgewise. But, you know, eventually we figured out our balance with that.
I told Anthony Cusanelli when he was coming in, I said, you know, one of the things that Tim told me about you was that I had to meet this kid that Berman had recruited, bringing in from, and I said, "Why do I have to meet him?" He goes, "He's Cusanelli. He's Cusanelli." He was saying that on the phone to me, and I'm going like, "Oh my God, that's the same way he did a call, right?"
Right.
Every time Anthony called, we could
Yeah.
hear the Cusanelli part. So,
Yep.
we brought everybody in. I know it's always a tough time, but you've been around the program now long enough to know how much Tim meant to the program and how much the alumni means to the program. I don't know if there's ever a time that we could say maybe it was okay that something like this happened, but if it was going to happen, you want to be surrounded by friends, right? And there's a friends and family right here with the University of Arizona alumni. Tell me your thoughts on that.
Well, the support of any organization is big, and especially like I talked about, Tim's heart was in this,
Yes.
This program, this the Arizona hockey. I mean, that was, you know, he has a love for it going back years and years and years before I even knew where Tucson was on a map, and that. In a lot of sense, for a lot of us who do spend a lot of time around the game or have spent a lot of time around the game, it is your family. You know, the organization, the players, the coaches, the staff. I mean, you spend so much time together that you grow together. Not everybody likes everybody else, and not everybody gets along, but, you know, you fight with your brothers.
Right.
And out of that, you come out stronger. And so, I mean, so in a way, this was like the gathering of the extended family.
Right.
And no, there's not a good time, but, you know, coincidence being what it was, I mean, just the way things worked out, and the hockey community as strong as it is, I mean, that's, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, that's a good time to take a break. Let's bring in the beauty of this whole thing. We got Leah Merrall coming up first, so we'll go from Leah and go right on through some folks that Tim touched. Their lives, and then you and I will come back and wrap this thing up and kind of put a bow on it. Hopefully we can do it well enough, because there might be a message coming down from heaven for one of us, maybe both of us, if we don't do this right.
I'm sure if I scroll back through my text, I'll just find one.
All right, we'll be right back in with Leah Merrall. Well, folks, we're still talking tribute to Tim, and Leah Merrall is with me, and that's correctly how I pronounce your name, right?
It is, yeah.
Okay, so Leah's with me, and I wanted to get a cross-section of all the people that knew Tim and what he meant to them. You worked with him at U of A. As I was telling you before we got on camera, a lot of things hit me over the weekend. A lot of memories went through, and I know you have a bunch as well. So start off and just tell us a little bit what Tim Gassen meant to you, Leah.
Well, Tim was a mentor to me, and he was also a friend. He taught me so much about what it meant to be a media professional in hockey, what it meant to be a professional in general, and he also really advocated for me in ways that I can't explain how grateful I am. For example, when we went to the national tournament in Ohio, he actually paid for my ticket out of pocket, because he wanted me to have that experience, and those 5 days or however many it was the most hands-on learning I've ever done, and those 5 days were more valuable than any class I ever took in college with Tim. So, I mean, that's just a small snippet of the kind of things that he would do for others to help them.
Well, you knew when you were at the University of Arizona what the hockey program was like, and it was, when Chad Berman came in, it was kind of at its low point, and Chad had to reboost things, but it wasn't just Chad, was it? Tim had a lot to do with making you guys a professional media organization.
Totally. Yeah, I think Tim loved U of A hockey maybe more than anybody else on the planet. He took that program, he implemented the live broadcasts, he turned around the Twitter account, the Facebook account, and by the time I left, even now 2 years removed, it watching the broadcast, it was professional. There were even commercials. There was the, lower third. Like, everything was so professional that it could have been, an NCAA Division I hockey team that was paying a ton of people to run its social media. But Tim did that, and he did it out of passion for loving the program.
When I was thinking about everything over the weekend after getting the news that Tim had passed, I was thinking about all of those things, and I thought every weekend I get complaints from people that have a bad stream, right? They're trying to watch ASU NCAA hockey or some other program, and they're complaining about the stream. The hitch never happened.
Never.
It never happened with Tim, and he wouldn't let it happen,
No,
would he?
Never. He would get to the game like 2 or 3 hours before, set everything up. He was so on everything when it came to the stream, and he had a team of amazing people every year, and I was lucky to be a part of that. So
Tell me what that recruitment was like, because he recruited people, right? He wanted a media team, and he was proud of it. He had a nice picture of everybody every year. But tell me what it was when he recruited you to be on his team.
Yeah, so he definitely recruited me. We actually had met 6 months prior because I saw his Twitter handle and thought, AZ Puckman, who's that? And I actually was an apprentice at the Arizona Daily Star at the time under his wife, Sarah Gassen.
Right.
And I had to do a profile for a feature writing class in journalism, and I thought, I really want to learn about this guy. And I met him, and I shadowed him for an entire Tucson Roadrunners broadcast. And, in part of my interviewing him, we got talking, and I told him how much I loved hockey and looked to see myself in hockey media in the future. And he remembered that just from that one meeting, and it must have been in March or something like that. And he emailed me in September remembering that meeting and said, listen, I remember that, I know you're a journalist. I know Sarah, had you as a student. Is this something you'd be interested in? And that's kind of how it started.
All right, so you have a hockey background. You grew up in the far
Toronto.
north,
Yeah,
right?
in
So,
Toronto.
so you know all about hockey.
Yeah.
But tell me about hockey in Tucson, Arizona, and the University of Arizona, and Tim Gassen, and how that all tied in.
I think hockey in Tucson's really special. It's not in Toronto. Everyone loves hockey, so it's
Right.
not really a thing. If you love hockey in Tucson, it's really special, and you don't just love it, you love it. And I
Right.
think Tim was a perfect example of that, and he did so much for the game in Tucson. I mean, when the Roadrunners came, he jumped right on the opportunity to be with them. He did their color commentary for 2 seasons. When it came to U of A, he wanted to make that not just a program that was great for the community in Tucson, but something that can be taken in and enjoyed all over the country and maybe even the world. And I know he really strongly believed that. And, he did it. He would do 2-a-days sleeping in the booth in between games. And, he did everything he could to be involved and help grow the game in Tucson. And I thought that was really special.
Okay, so we all know about Tim, right? But Tim was also a very funny, comical man. He was a musician, an author, all of those things. But I'm asking everybody that I'm visiting with in this little tribute show to tell me something funny about Tim. So you hold on to your thought. You think of a good one. I'm going to tell you one that I remember with you guys. I told you off camera. I know that you guys came up for the bitter rivalry between ASU and U of A. You're at Oceanside Ice Arena.
Yep.
I'm up in the press box. You guys go up in the press box, and the head coach at the time at ASU removed anybody that was wearing blue and red and basically said you couldn't be in the press box to broadcast the game. I tell the story because it's so comical, because in the Oceanside press box, all the way down the right side of me were ASU people. But on the left side, there was room for 10, 15 people, but it was just me sitting there. And I saw you guys go over to the bleachers. I saw you step up in front of the ASU logo and do your broadcast.
Yep.
And during the intermissions, I was getting text messages from Tim going I should be up there. I should be sitting next to you. And I was trying not to laugh, but it was just one of the comical times. I know it was really frustrating for him and probably for you at that time, but when we look at it back at now, we go, man, that was really funny. So give me something else that Tim
my
did.
God.
I know you have a ton of them,
Yeah.
but give me something that sticks out.
Well, Tim supported hockey in Arizona, but Tim hates ASU. There were so many times that, he would have me kick ASU players out of our own press box at Oceanside. Oceanside was also freezing. He and I would get sick from going there, literally get a cold, and then be texting each other about having the cold. That was really funny. I mean, he is just such a funny guy. Made me laugh all the time. But something I do want to say, and it's not necessarily funny, but it's just really amazing, was when we did go to Columbus together for that time for the national championship, like I said, that he paid for me. Tim's from Columbus originally, right. And we spent a whole day driving all over Columbus. Luckily, my friend lived there and lent me her car, and we drove all around. I saw his childhood home. I saw the candy store that he used to go to on his paper route. I saw his school. We went to the Ohio State store, and it was just, we went to a deli that he used to go to as a kid, and it was just so amazing to see him in that element and kind of get a sense of who he is outside of Tucson and outside of this hockey world. He was just an amazing guy who with so much passion, not only for hockey, but his friends and family, and getting to see him in that setting was just really special, and I'm so glad I have that memory with him.
Can't top that. Thank you, Leah. I appreciate you stepping in with us. We got 6 more to go, so we'll be down in the locker room to do the rest of them. You're up here in Scottsdale now, so I appreciate you being able to take some time and come over and visit with us. And, I can say it for all of us, we're all going to miss him. He was one of a kind. It happened way too soon and way too fast. And, I don't know if we're ever all going to adjust to it right away. I know I've had my periods of time where I've broken down over the last couple of days, and it just kind of goes in waves. But you know what? I know I talked to Coach Powers yesterday in our regular segment, and he had so much mutual respect for Tim, and they grew up in the same Indianapolis area, went to the same high school. So while the rivalry, and it's rivalry week again now, while that was very bitter, hockey players and hockey families are always one.
100%, and Tim's presence can never be replaced, but it is actually not gone. The impact he made on all of us will stay for a long time.
Thank you, Leah. I appreciate it. All right, welcome in, folks. It's another tribute to Tim. We got more guests than I know what to do with here, but that was Tim Gassen, right? I mean, he knew everybody. Everybody knew Tim. And, Mr. Cusanelli, Anthony Cusanelli, the captain, when I say the word Tim Gassen, what do you think of?
Arizona hockey. I mean, can't say enough good things about the guy. His passion for the program was unquestioned, and he truly loved his program more than anyone.
When we talk about just how fast this all happened, I mean, you guys were playing a game Thursday night. All of a sudden he thinks he has food poisoning. It develops. We think he's getting better, and then things take a turn for the worse. But in the meantime, you got a team, and you got games that you got to play, and you're fighting for a Cactus Cup and a national tournament bid and a top 4 seed, a national tournament, all the things that Tim would have wanted. How difficult was that as a player and the leader of this team?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. I mean, coming to the rink each day wasn't easy. Playing our games with Tim not up there is definitely noticeable for me, at least. And I mean, all we can do now is carry on for Tim and give it our all for him.
Big weekend for you. It's the Cactus Cup rivalry again. You get your shots at ASU, and I know it's never easy. Those games are never easy. Alumni weekend as well. You've been here for a little while now. You know what the alumni mean to this program. So tell me about this weekend and how hard you guys are going to fight to try to win that Cactus Cup by Saturday night.
Yeah, it's been a bit different this year. They're a way better team. Obviously, the series is tied up, so stakes are higher this year. And alumni-wise, a lot of my old buddies coming back in town from seniors when I was a freshman, seniors from last year. So it'll be fun seeing a lot of my old friends, but we have work to do here, and we've got to take care of business starting tomorrow night.
I talk about this program, and Tim was at the forefront, as we all know, but before you got here, a couple of years before you, Coach Berman shows up, and he's got his hands full. He's got to turn this program around, and Tim's here trying to make it professional. But you've witnessed this now over a few years. How proud of you are you to say that you're a Wildcat?
Yeah, I mean, when I got here, this program was on the rise slowly, but we had to rebuild pretty quickly here, and last year was kind of our first step forward in the right direction. And yeah, Tim's been through all of it. Tim was here when the program was awesome, when the program went downhill a little bit, and Tim was here for the rise of it, thankfully. But yeah, I mean, Arizona hockey's on the map now, and it's definitely awesome being a Wildcat.
And I don't want to just put this on one person, but he built the media brand, which of course helps the players. When you're having an exceptional year and you have a media guy that's touting you, and that was one of the things he told me about you. I'll tell you in a minute, but what was it like to have somebody actually tout you at the ACHA level?
Yeah, it was cool. Coming across the country here, I didn't know really anyone here when I got here, and Tim was one of the first people that kind of reached out to me. It was obviously nice to me off the start, and it always made me feel special. I mean, I had a few individual awards that didn't mean much to me, but Tim was always so happy for me, and probably made him happier than I was happy. But Tim, that's the type of guy he was. He was just happy for me and wanted us to succeed no matter what.
All right, I'm going to give you a moment to think of a good, funny story. I know you think you already have one. I'm going to tell you, when I started putting this together over the weekend, I was going like, who am I going to get? Then I started thinking, I've got a list of about 50 people. I can't have everybody. But I wanted to get a cross-section of what Tim meant to this program and you know, what you guys meant to him. So I started thinking about all the funny stories, and I could tell you about 50 of them. But when you first came here, he sent me a text message, and he said, you wouldn't believe who Berman got. And I said, who Berman got for what? He goes, a recruit. He got this recruit. He's from the East Coast. He's unbelievable. You got to see the videos of him. It's Cusanelli. And he kept screaming Cusanelli to me. And then all of a sudden you score a goal, and I hear the play-by-play, and I'm going like, he just kept doing that, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, he was labeled me as a sniper and always got happy when I scored right off the bat. But, yeah, I mean, all of his play-by-play calls were awesome for me. He definitely had I don't know, he liked me. I don't want to say more than other guys, but he definitely had a special feeling for me. And there was one game towards the end, Tim was saying on the broadcast, like, it's just a game, everyone calm down, like, because he noticed himself getting too excited. And then 30 seconds later, I end up scoring. It's Anthony Cusanelli! And he starts going crazy. And I see Tim in the hallway after the game, and I was like, Tim, I heard you were telling the crowd to calm down there. What happened? He's like, oh, I got a little excited, sorry. But just stuff like that. Tim was so passionate, and his broadcast was awesome to listen to and watch always.
Anthony Cusanelli, thanks for the time. I know it's a tough weekend for all you guys, but you know you got an extra forward, defenseman, goaltender, fan, media person watching down on you this weekend. So good luck, best of luck in winning that Cactus Cup again. And you know what? It's alumni weekend, so enjoy the family around you.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Scott.
And suddenly the sun seems to be all gone. And suddenly it's Sunday and you've gone away.
All right, welcome in, hockey fans. It's a tribute to Tim Gassen, who passed away this last weekend here at the University of Arizona. I had a chance, and I was putting together a list, right? Rob Leano. There we go. Leano. Okay, I get this right. Okay.
You'll get it.
All right. So anyway, when I'm putting together this list, I'm thinking of all the people that Tim introduced me to down here and all the things that happened. And I thought, who am I going to get? Because I wanted everybody that I had a personal story about from Tim, right? So I thought of you, like I did everybody else, and I wanted to invite you in and have you share a few moments about, first of all, Tim Gassen and the person he was. So when I start this, and I say Tim Gassen, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
You know, I just think of a guy who, you know, is always willing to help out people. He actually, I tell people this all the time. He introduced me to the hockey world down here in Tucson. I know I'm not from here. I'm from the Bay Area, California, and you know, sophomore year in college, I'm just like, hey, I need to find my niche in sports journalism because, you know, football, I know kind of, basketball, hockey, now that's my thing. Right. So I go on the U of A website or for hockey, and I'm like, all right, who do I contact to get into it? I get in contact with Tim. So then, you know, Tim is like, you know, I tried to become on his media team, but, you know, didn't work out. But he's still like, hey, you know what? You're still writing for Desert Swarm or for other entities, so feel free to come out and write. I'm willing to help you out, like, and, you know, ask me any questions, and I'm here for you. And, you know, I did that. I came, I kept writing, and I got better, and he kept telling me, he's like, you know what? You know, I think you can get better. And he kept telling me that. I think you can get better. And I think that's the one thing I loved a lot because, you know, he said he kept willing to help you out and all those things. And then he introduced me to Tom Callahan. He just introduced me to everybody in the hockey media scene down here. And, you know, I am forever grateful for his introduction.
You know, I went through that same thing, and then the Roadrunners came to town, right?
Right.
And you and I met at a Roadrunners game. Mm-hmm. We were having and this is a funny story. I'm jumping to it a little early, but
Right.
I got to tell you this because we'd sit down and have the media dinner after or before the games, and I'd usually run into you, and we'd sit down at a table, and then Tim would come along, or maybe Tim was first. But however it worked out, he'd always say, "You got to go find Rob and sit with Rob. He's got good stuff to tell you. He's probably going to fight with you about the Sharks, but you got to talk to Rob about this." And was always every time we came down for a media dinner, that was what he wanted me to do, was get over by you and talk to you about hockey. So that was the thing that stuck with me right away when I was thinking about all these different things this weekend. Tell me something funny about Tim Gassen. What did he do that was that would make you laugh and smile?
Actually, one of the funny things is, I think a lot of people like to mention trips up to Oceanside, right? So he texts me, he's like, "Hey, if you want to come up, bus leaves at this time," right? And I get there early, whatever, and I'm dressed probably how I am now, and he's like, "There's no way you're going to Oceanside dressed like that." And I'm just like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "I told you, it's going to be really, really cold up there." And I kind of didn't believe him because, well,
You're going to Tempe, Arizona, right?
yeah, I'm going to, because I've been to other practice facilities or other small hockey venues, and I'm like, I'm used to it. I think I could. And then I step inside, I'm like, yeah, no, I can't do this. so I think he goes to motion to Coach Berman, and then gets to get an extra jacket, and he's like, "You're gonna need this." So I'm just like, all right, yeah, you're right. It's really cold in here, so I'll need this.
All right, so you've been around the program for a while. You've seen all the things. It's Alumni Weekend. It's Cactus Cup Battle again. It's Rivalry Weekend. Mm-hmm. How important was this program, and especially the alumni, to Tim Gassen?
I think it meant everything to him because, the U of A team has been here for decades, since the 70s. And, he's been a part of that program for, since that long, 30, 40 years or whatever it was. And, seeing him, how passionate he was, I remember writing a story about, the retiring of one of the players' jerseys, and he mentioned to me, he's like, "Hey, you did a fantastic job on that story. That's probably one of your best stories," because I talked about what it meant to the team and what it meant to him too. So he's just like, "Yeah, you did a great job on that." And every time I would talk to him, he'd talk about U of A, how much he loved it, all the history of U of A. That's what I love talking to him about because it made him happy.
You mentioned to me when you got here you didn't really know much about the Tucson hockey scene.
Mm-hmm.
It changed a lot over your years here, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, no, it's been huge. Like I've probably noticed maybe not so much hockey fans down here, probably my first year, and then all of a sudden, U of A starts picking up steam. They get so much better, and then the Roadrunners come in. They had a playoff run their second year, and all of a sudden they're all over the place. Youth programs, everything. And I'm just like, what? Hockey's great down here in Tucson.
Robbie, thanks for your time. I know it's a tough weekend for you like the rest of us, but thanks for stepping in and sharing some memories.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right, welcome back in. It's a tribute to Tim Gassen, who passed away earlier this week here at the University of Arizona. I've got Tanner Harris with me. Tanner, you got to refill me again on what is this official role of yours here at the University of Arizona?
Yeah, it's a mix of everything. I've been told a range of things of what I'm doing, and I learn something new about my job every day. But pretty much I've been told you do everything except for coach. So, I'm hitting the road with the guys. I'm traveling with the team, making sure they're taken care of, doing all things from Dean's excuses to purchasing pizza for them after a game.
Okay. I know it hit you hard as well. Anytime you lose somebody that's part of the program, anytime you lose anybody that you're relatively close to in any stretch. But tell me some things about Tim Gassen and what he meant to you.
Yeah, Tim was a major part of the reason why I'm here, and he meant so much to the program and to all the fans out there in the stands. And like you said, it's just something that hits so hard, and it was so unexpected, and it kind of just caught us all off guard. And it just reminds me of the time back. This was early 2017. I was traveling with the team to Gilbert for some home games. First time I've ever been on a bus with a team to going anywhere. But Tim had a spot right next to him for me to get on, and he really included me in conversations and stuff on that trip, and he just made me feel like I belonged and I was part of the team, and that that was something that meant a lot to me back then. And just this past week, it's been a memory that's kind of stirred back up in my heart. And it's just something I'm so grateful for. And just those moments that we had together where we were able to connect and just talk about hockey and just really feel at home.
I talked to Leah Merrall a little earlier, and Leah told me that one of the things that happened here was when she was a student that Tim actually recruited her to be part of the media team, and he was proud of his media team, right? He wanted a picture of everybody. He wanted everybody to do a specific job. He wanted a media team. Tell me about your experience with the quote-unquote media team.
Yeah, I ran the operations team. He ran the media team, so we had a really good back and forth with each other where, we were constantly working together and trying to improve, and just top class every time working with his students, and his students were always just very ready to learn and super helpful when we needed them, and it just ultimately just shows how good of a teacher he was, and just the things that he brought to that team that ultimately helped the entire program become stronger.
All right, I'm going to give you a minute to think of a good, funny story while I go on and tell you a little bit about everybody, again, that I talked to and wanted to bring on for this. He had told me some stories about them, right? When I was talking to him about you taking over this job starting this year, he was beaming like a dad, right? He was like, I can't believe Tanner's going to be doing this. He's going to be the perfect fit for him. If we can just keep him out of the Roadrunners. And it was his big thing on him was you had to be U of A. You had to be wearing the blue and the red and the white. He didn't want you to be a part of the Roadrunners anymore. You were the big A right now. So that was one of the things that stuck out to me. I'm going like, Tim loved the University of Arizona. He loved the hockey program here. And I know he's up there looking down on us right now going like, Tanner's got this. He's got this under control.
Oh, I certainly hope so. And, like Shane said and like everybody else said, no one can really fill Tim's shoes. And by no means am I trying to become that person to fill his shoes. He was Mr. Arizona when it came to hockey here. And, I just thinking about the Roadrunner stuff, Tim bagged on me all the time about working for the Roadrunners. And I spent 2 years just working in media for them. So spent a lot of time with them. And I remember the first time meeting him officially when I started as a student employee here at the U of A hockey team. He looked at me and he was like, I didn't recognize you. He's like, you're one of the kids in the booth. He was like, oh, I thought you were like some player from Sweden or something like that. So, but yeah, just really funny guy, really lively guy. And it just made me laugh, and it kind of just helped grow our connection that we had with each other. So.
All right, let's wrap it up with Alumni Weekend here again. You get to experience it again from a different position this year, but how important is the alumni, and how important is it to have Alumni Weekend, rivalry weekend with ASU coming down here on this particular weekend?
Yeah, it means everything, and just to be surrounded by people that are so caring, and the hockey community is so tight-knit, and it's so close, and just having all these alumni come down and being able to hear their stories about Tim and everything that he meant to them, and it gives every player in that locker room just on the other side of this wall a reason to go out there and play hard and to play fast and to really fight. And this weekend it's more than just hockey. This weekend is just showing the perseverance of the human spirit.
All right, I don't know if I can end it on anything better than that, but I do know one thing. There's a Cactus Cup in this room, and I know how bad you guys here at the U of A want to keep it. I also know that Tim was the first one to want to put his hands on it and hand it over to Coach Berman. So good luck this weekend with the Cactus Cup. I know Tim's watching down us, and thanks a lot for spending time with us and sharing your memories.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
All right, welcome back in. The tribute to Tim, the tribute to Tim Gassen, who we lost suddenly and unexpectedly this weekend here at the University of Arizona. Jackson Peters, the right-hand man, I call you, of Tim Gassen. You were his guy, right? I know it's extremely tough on you, so first of all, I appreciate you coming in and sharing some thoughts with us. When I say Tim Gassen, what goes through your mind? What's the first thing that you think of?
I mean, really the first thing you think of is he got his point across, and you never you had to wonder what Tim was thinking. That was always one of my favorite things, is you knew how passionate he was about this game, and you always knew how much he cared about you. I never had to wonder if Tim cared about me as a person outside of the rink, because he was really vocal about it, and he was really vocal and very clearly passionate about pretty much everything he did. And that's something I always think of as, when Tim was in the room, it was Tim's room.
Right.
And that's something that's, he was pretty impactful in any scenario.
All right, I visited with Leah Merrall up in Scottsdale the other day, and the first thing she told me was how important it was to be a part of the team, right? And I said, tell me about being recruited, because Tim really recruited you guys, didn't he? He wanted to find the guys and girls that would fit the team, and he wanted that team photo, and he wanted that team camaraderie. Your media staff here was a team, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was, and it was funny how that all started for me, because I originally was trying to play here. I came down my senior year of high school, and that's when I met Tim. I was one of the intermission interviews. I talked to him about stuff, and then from that point on, the man did not stop nagging me to, come back and help out with the broadcast. And, once he found out I was involved with film and television and journalism and wasn't going to end up playing, I don't think there was any way he was not going to let me be a part of that. And thankfully that came at a time, where I was kind of transitioning into adulthood. I needed to kind of find my way, and Tim gave me a chance to do that. And by being in that team, and it was so small, there were only 5 or 6 of us that first year. For me personally, that was a huge way for me to adapt to college and adapt to this kind of new lifestyle that I wasn't really ready for in a way. And I think Tim, he was kind of that kind of almost a father figure here in Tucson. He really, kind of gave me, where to eat, where to go, how to handle myself in school. And I think that was a bigger part of that media team freshman year for me than, coming to the games and doing that. It was, I learned a lot of life lessons that time.
Okay, so you were in the Big A. Tim was very proud of the Big A, right? He wanted everybody to know that.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about the professionalism that he brought to the media side of it, everybody's told me and I knew this, but I like to hear it from everybody else, is that he made you guys professional, right? He wanted you guys to be the best broadcast that could be out there, whether it was ACHA, NCAA, NHL. He didn't care, right? He wanted to be the best. Tell me a little bit about being the best and what it took here.
Yeah, so it was hard for me to get used to, how Tim taught things. He was very critical, and one of his biggest things was time. If you were 2 minutes late like I was because of the train, it wasn't a good enough excuse. And, at the time, it was frustrating. I wasn't used to having to meet these deadlines and stuff like that. But, spending my 3rd year here with Tim, I really started to pick up on, well, he did all that to make me good at this, to make me really care about it and make sure things were done right the first time around. Instead of, having to fail a couple times, he wanted things to go right and go smoothly. And I think he really taught me to be prepared for that. And I think that was, his passion for how to be professional. It really rubbed off on me. And, he was always critical of me in the best way possible. If I messed something up, I knew. And that was something that, I really took for granted, because I didn't realize how much it was really helping me become a better broadcaster.
I talked to Coach Powers up at ASU the other day, and he had a chance to reflect on Tim as well. And one of the things that we discussed was Tim was a reality check, right? Good or bad, you just displayed a little bit of it. It was a reality check every time you had a conversation. And Coach Powers is telling me, I moped around all weekend over a tie. And he goes, I realized that wasn't reality. And Tim's passing was reality. And we play a game we love, but it's still a game, right? So now I want you to think of a funny story, because I know Tim would always want you to say something funny when there was a chance. You talked about how tough he could be, but he also was humorous. Then I'm going to give you a little story right now, what he told me about you. And what you're thinking about yours, you'll probably get a chuckle out of this, but when he first assigned you to locker room duty, to hold security out, to keep the media away from getting in the locker room too early, he told me, he goes, you got to respect Jackson. You got to. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, he's going to be down by the media door, but you got to respect him, because he's the guy in charge, and we can't let media in to that locker room until they have a cooling off period. So tell me a little bit about being the security guard for the locker room and the media.
Yeah, it was something that I had, I've seen it on, TV after NHL games where there's the one guy holding out his arm, kind of stopping everybody, and I'm like, oh well, everybody will come down and kind of be respectful and kind of just pool around. But some of those people from some of the newspapers, they came right in here and just kind of had to run and chase after him. And Tim taught me pretty quick that that's not the way things are supposed to be done, but it was pretty good.
All right, give me something funny.
Yeah, so I think, when I think of Tim and funny, so last year at the end of the year, it was the Cactus Cup clinching game up at ASU. And me and Tim, every time we talk about going down to ASU, we talk about how terrible that rink is, how cold it is, and how stuff's always falling from the ceiling. But I remember Tim, he had like 3 layers of jacket on. He had his mittens, he had his hat on, and he had a scarf in the booth. And I just thought that was so funny because it was a cold rink, but it was a good time to have the Cactus Cup, and Tim's there, all bundled up, and it's like March in Tempe. So I thought that was pretty good.
Leah Merrall told me the same thing. She said they'd always come back from Oceanside and they'd be texting each other because they were sick because they got a cold up there. But Jackson, thanks for stepping in. I know this is a tough weekend for you. You do have family here, though. You've got the alumni in this weekend. And is there any better fitting weekend than to be playing ASU and trying to get over the hump and win that Cactus Cup back?
Yeah, I mean, for the program, I think that there's plenty to play for this weekend. I don't think anyone's searching for something to play for. I mean, of course, it's the big rivalry, but I've talked to plenty of people about U of A hockey, and sometimes it's when you say U of A hockey, they think of Tim. They don't think of the Cusanellis, the big scoring guys. They think of Tim because Tim really brought a lot of life and passion to this program, and I'm not worried at all about the players, showing that same kind of passion and respect for, not only the game, but this team and everything it means to everybody involved. It really kind of makes you realize that this is more than a game. This is a lifestyle, and it's people involved, and there's a lot of, heartbreak sometimes, but there's a lot of good times too. And I think that's why we all do it. I know we're not all here to just simply watch hockey. We're here for the people. And Tim was one of those people, and I'm lucky enough to have called him my friend, and I'm really excited to see what this U of A team can do this weekend.
Well, I know he had a media team, but I can tell you firsthand you were his right-hand man. He told me it over and over again. So thanks for stepping in with us.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it.
All right, welcome in, hockey fans. The tribute to Tim. We're going to continue on. We had a great visit here at in the locker room, in the coach's office here at U of A, which was a spot Tim liked to hang out if he got a chance. But Shane Fausel is with me. Yeah. Shane, it caught us all off guard. I know anytime you have an illness, it's one thing, but to then suddenly turn the way it did for Tim Gassen. First of all, tell me your thoughts on the whole situation, and then tell me a little memory about Tim that comes right to the forefront for you.
Well, this hits us hard as a program. We consider ourselves a huge family. All of the alumni, all of the players, all of the fans, all of our personnel. Tim was all of those. He started out as a fan and became media director for us and announcer, and had more passion than I think anybody I've ever seen with any team. And he's going to be dearly missed by the entire program, by all of us, and we have definitely lost a member of our family.
Let me tell you how far it reached, because I talked to Coach Powers this week, and he said the first thing he said is, how's the U of A going to recover from this, and how are they going to ever replace Tim, and can they replace Tim?
Yeah, I don't know. Replacing an announcer, you can replace announcers, you can replace players, you can replace, certain positions. You can't replace passion, and that's just something that's hard to come by, and so that is going to be forever missed.
All right, it's rivalry week here. It's alumni weekend. Lots of things going on. I don't know how you guys get over it or how you get through it, but if you were going to, it's nice to have a lot of family around, and you guys do have a lot of family here. So tell me what this weekend would have meant to Tim.
I think he always enjoyed Alumni Weekend. It was always good for him because going back to when he was a fan and my first game, coming out and seeing these two crazy guys with these rubber chickens next to the visitor penalty box, I just looked and I said, I must be in Tucson. I've got to be in a different place here. So right then I knew that Tim was a special guy. We met him, quickly afterwards after playing that first game, and I just thought he was a great guy and had remained friends with him. So I've known him since 1990.
Okay, I'm going to let you think of a humorous story. I know there's plenty that you can tell us, but while you're thinking about that, I'm going to tell you, because as I was putting this all together, I was thinking about who do I need to talk to, because I have so many stories that Tim and I discussed about people here at the University of Arizona. You were one of them. The first time that he told me about you, he said, "You got to meet Shane. You got to meet Shane." I'm going like, "Who is Shane? Is Superman?" He goes, "He's better than that. He's a goalie, and he can skate." He was determined that I had to meet you and had to visit with you at some point in time. So that clearly he understood the passion that you brought to this program. You've seen the ups and downs here and everybody, but we talked about the way Tim changed the media down here, right? I was talking to Leah Merrall, and I said, every weekend I hear from people that tell me the stream is bad. The stream is bad. Not at the U of A. And she said, no, Tim would be here 2 hours early to make sure that the stream wasn't bad.
Yeah. Tim was extremely dedicated. My funniest story is just going out with him. Coach Berman and I would go out and we'd have dinner and we'd sit around and we'd talk. And he's the same animated guy in person that he was on the TV and on the radio. And there's not many people like that. He's that was who he is, and that's the passion that he carried throughout his whole life.
All right, Shane, I appreciate you stepping in on the tribute to Tim. It's bittersweet, right? I mean, because anytime you lose somebody and lose them suddenly, it's always difficult. But I know Tim is looking down at us all right now, smiling at us and probably laughing at us. I know he's poking me, telling me that I need to do better, because that was what he told me was you do something good, but do it better next time.
Yeah, he was always one to keep improving. But I appreciate it, Scotty.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time, and we'll step up with one more guest in just a minute. All right, welcome back into our tribute to Tim Gassen, who passed away here at the University of Arizona just last weekend. I got Chad Berman with me, the head coach here, and Chad, I don't know how you do it, because you've had to deal with adversity since the day you stepped on this campus, and this is something that nobody could have seen coming. I know you told me a couple of weeks ago that Tim told you that he thought he might have food poisoning, and all of a sudden you go from a Thursday night game and food poisoning to this. So first of all, give me a few thoughts on Tim and what he meant to you and your program.
Yeah, what a journey. Just such a ball of energy and passion. I know everybody's saying it, but there's really I've never met anybody as extremely passionate as Tim. And that's what made him special. It was, you get both sides of the coin on that. I'm a passionate person too, and so my players get both sides of that coin too. There's good and bad, and there's things that come with it. But one thing you knew was that nobody cared or wanted this program to succeed more than Tim. And there's been especially when we were kind of trying to get our teeth in the ground with this program. That was the challenge, was getting people to believe in this thing and get behind it. It was never a challenge with Tim. We had one lunch, and I was with another person with me that was like, I didn't like him, and I'm like, well, I kind of liked him. We can manage this. Just the passion, the commitment, the desire for this to become what I'd pictured and what we talked about. And through the tough days, he was in the trenches with me. It's just it's a sad day. It's tough news. It's hard to believe. It's still not really sunk in completely. And it turns so quick. So it's difficult for sure.
Okay, I talked to Coach Powers about it, and him and Tim went to the same high school back in Indianapolis, and they have a long connection.
Didn't know that.
Coach Powers came on and told us a lot of things about Tim and everything. And he said one of the things is he was so passionate about U of A hockey, but he still appreciated NCAA hockey and wanted to come up and said a lot of nice things about the Arizona State NCAA program. But this is rivalry weekend again for you guys, alumni weekend, and Tim was about as passionate as it gets between the Big A and wanting them to win that Cactus Cup, wasn't he?
Yeah, no question. I think Tim's everything about Arizona hockey, but it's not just Arizona hockey. It's Arizona sports. It's hockey in the Midwest. You know, I mean, Tim and I talked fondly often of Greg because, you know, we're hockey fans first, and you know, certainly we don't like the sweater they wear, but you got to respect the work and the results they're getting there. And so we would always talk about that stuff. You know, but he covered our games. He did some Pac-12 games with the ASU games. He helped you out there, and you know, he just had such an enthusiasm for the game that this game needs more of.
You know, when Coach and I were talking about that, he said one of the things that he was most proud of, and he's proud of all of the ACHA development. I can tell you that firsthand, but Tim really put you guys, in Coach's words, he put you guys on the map media-wise too. He made it professional, a whole media outlet that other teams strive to be like.
Yeah, I mean, when we were building this thing, we needed first and foremost to change the culture here. We needed to bring in more talent. But we needed exposure. I mean, it didn't matter what we did if nobody knew about it. And so we didn't have press releases. The broadcast coverage was dicey at best. And you weren't sure if the person who were doing it going to show up. If there was a problem, well, then I'm the guy on the bench who's got to fix it. So, you know, he brought such a professionalism, stability, enthusiasm that was it's unrivaled. And it made us legitimate. And the production came as high and as quickly as the product on the ice did. And I think that's what made this process so beautiful, and this, you know, this journey so beautiful, is that it just kind of all wove together, and Tim's fingerprints are all over it.
Okay, I asked everybody. I'm going to ask you two to give me a story or two, a comical story, because you never could have a conversation without Tim without getting some laughs in. And everybody's told me something. Leah Merrall told me about when he paid for her way to go with you guys to the national tournament, and then she got a friend's car in Columbus, and he made her drive around Columbus, showing her all the sights from everywhere to the candy shop he went to on his paper route to the Ohio State bookstore. I mean, I was howling because I could just see Tim doing that. She said it took a whole day, but she wouldn't have traded it for a moment. So think about that story. I'm going to tell him that one of the things that he told me about you, and he told me hundreds. But,
oh boy!
But one of the things that he told me was when he was asking me what I thought about him going down on the ice and doing interviews after games. And I told him, I said, you know, I've been around for a little while, and I know one thing: when a coach loses a game, I want to be as far away from that coach for at least a couple of hours and let him get over it. And he's going like, so you don't think I should go down there and ask him after a game? I'm going like, Tim, I know you're going to do what you want to do, but I can tell you right now, getting down there. So I always remember when he went down on the ice, because you guys would barely finish a game, win, lose, or draw, and he was down on the ice wanting to get your comments.
Yeah, I sensed that. So that's funny you say that, because I always got the sense he was delicate with me after losses, but he'd always follow up with me being like, you know, coach, you know, you did a good job, and, you know, it's tough to stand in and take those comments. And then he'd be like, but, you know, you know, you got to end with something positive here. And I'm like, I'm a straight shooter, so I don't have a lot of positive to say about that game. So, yeah, it was always funny. That was funny. I've got a couple stories for sure. And it's appropriate for this weekend. ASU, first time in that December game, first time we finally broke the streak and beat them after a long, long streak. I'm in the game. I'm in the locker room. I walk in the locker room. Guys are going nuts. We're doing good. They calm down. I do a handstand, so I think I'm just like doing all kinds of weird things. I did a handstand in the middle of the room. We calm down. We're talking about the victory and how we finally kind of go over the hump. And it got quiet for a second, and like a bull in a china shop, Tim comes running into the room and picks up our captain, Dylan Carter, and just shakes him like it was like a gorilla. It was crazy. And at first I'm like, what's he doing in the room? And then I'm like, you know, it's Tim. So I'll never forget that. I mean, that's a big part of our history. One thing that's interesting, and I didn't even get to talk to Tim about this given the recent news, but we share a room back there, a closet back there, and it's got, like, you know, our jerseys, our tape, our equipment, and it's got a little corner carved out for his media cart, so he could store his media cart in there. And this year, I'd go in there and I'd have the jerseys in a corner directly away from his. And I'm kind of anal about how I organize things. I like things neat and clean. And so I put things in a corner and angle it how it is. And every single game, Tim would move my jersey and they'd just be out in the middle. And I'd be like, they wouldn't even be in the way. And so I'd be like, why does he keep moving this? And I kept meaning to ask him. But man, I'd sure love Friday for that to be moved, for sure.
Coach, I appreciate your time as always. I got to tell you one other thing that Leah Merrall and I shared was I told her, I said, that's what stuck with me, and I'm glad she was able to come on. But you guys played ASU like you always do at Oceanside, and it was a couple of years ago. And I'm up in the press box at Oceanside, and on my right is a whole row of ASU players and media people. On my left is nothing, but a room for about 15 people. So Tim and Leah come up there, and it wasn't more than about 2 minutes, and the then coach at ASU came up and chased them down. And I can hardly keep a straight face on this one, but Tim was so frustrated that he walked over on the other side of the rink, got up in the bleachers, and stood in front of the pitchfork and did the broadcast from the pitchfork. And like I'm sitting up there, and every intermission break I'd get like 5 text messages going like, I should be up there, I should be up there.
I heard about that for about a month. Honestly, he was so rattled by that. Yeah, they still don't let us up there. I think it's because of that. I saw the little tape up there. Yeah, he's man. It's like you said. This is a fitting weekend for it. This weekend. There's never going to be a good time for this to happen. So, right. But if it's going to happen, this weekend's fitting because we've got alumni in the building. Everybody through the years who have cared about him, and he loved Alumni Weekend. He loved seeing the boys come back in town. You know, like he lives for this, and he lives for ASU. I mean, and it's like he loves the rivalry with the respect value of the competition between the two and the camaraderie in the building and the energy it brings. And so, boy, if we could just bring half the passion that he brings, we're going to represent him. We'll be all right. But I'm sure if there's, I don't know what you believe in or don't, but if there's a way for him to be in the building, he'll be in that building for sure.
Totally believe in that. And when I think back about the whole thing, and it's fitting that it's a Cactus Cup weekend, and if you guys are able to pull out a couple of wins and be able to hoist that Cactus Cup on Saturday night, man, I think you'd make him very proud.
Yeah, it'd be special. Certainly, it'd be a great thing. Right now, Friday's all that matters to us. I'm going to give you the cliche coach stuff. That's been a good team over there, and we've had some tough battles as always. We'd love to find a way Friday, take care of business with our alumni in town especially, and give ourselves that opportunity. So we sure hope it works out that way.
Coach, I appreciate your time under very difficult circumstances and a really tough week here, but that's what it's all about. U of A is a big part of hockey in the Desert Southwest, and Tim Gassen was definitely part of U of A.
Absolutely.
There's another goal. That's a beautiful tip in by Tyler Griffith. That's Ethan Scaluth with the goal. There's a shot in the goal. Arizona takes the lead. And Anthony Cusanelli with the backhander. He shoots. He scores.
Your Arizona Wildcats, champions of the Cactus Cup.
All right, welcome back in. Hockey fans all over, I'm going to say this, all over the world, all over the country. Leah Merrall told me that, she goes, I know Tim reached a lot in Tucson, but I think he reached around the world and maybe even around the country. Tim was more than a hockey guy, though, right? I mean, a musician, an author, a teacher. He did a little of everything. But as we wrap this up, Tom Callahan, tell me a little bit about his professionalism. And, I've had a chance to talk to some other people today, and I've asked them about how he made the media side of an ACHA team professional.
The first week I came to fill in for Tim, everything was set up already. And he told me to get there early and just make sure everything went okay. I don't even think I needed to show up. Like, they probably could have called the game too. He just has the kids trained real well. And I'll be honest with you, there were times when Tim was no nonsense, and he did want to teach things and impart knowledge. And sometimes he could be hard on the kids, but I'll tell you what, he trained them to the point. This group and the groups before, like, they'll carry that knowledge with them their entire life, and they learn to do something right because a guy cared enough to teach them the right way and to drill that in, not the lazy way, not the shortcut way, but the right way to do things, and to impart. And there is a lot of knowledge there and a lot of wisdom. And Tim had his Purple Cactus media company, and he did a lot of that stuff on the side, but cared enough to invest in the students here. His time and his love of the program carried over, and hopefully, moving forward, the generations that come out of here, they one day will turn around and be able to teach whoever's coming behind them as well. And that's that's the thing about Tim, is he was always up for expanding his knowledge base, and that's why we had great conversations, and we would just sit there and talk about things. And I learned a lot from him. He learned a lot from me, and then at the end of the night, we got to talk about something we dearly loved. So I chalk that up as a win, and I think that is the epitome of Tim to me. He's a professional, but he was a friend, and he's just somebody I'm going to miss.
And I think about how professional things were, and as I'm traveling around the desert Southwest, I hear people complaining all the time about their streams, right? NCAA streams. They go out, and I'm sitting at different arenas, and I'm tuning into you or Tim's broadcast, and I never see your stream go out. I asked Leah Merrall about that. I said, how does that happen? And she goes, Tim wouldn't let it. Yeah. She said, quite frankly, he got here 2 hours early because it was not going to go out. And when you think about an ACHA program, I mean, this program is on the rise, right? We're going to be a number 4 seed probably in the national tournament. I mean, they're the best in the West right now and working that way. Well, Tim made the media side of it the best in the West as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And you know what? Again, it like a labor of love for a lot of people is something they'll put their heart and soul into and they enjoy. And it shows in your work. Yeah. The quality of your work is always, I think, 100 times better in something you're invested in, rather than something you're just doing for a paycheck or because you think you should. And I think that epitomizes Tim. Tim did it because he wanted to, not because somebody said, hey, we'll throw you some money if you do this. He said, no, I want to do this. And then the money is something else, or the notoriety is something else, or whatever comes with it is something else. It's for him. It was about the kids who wear the uniform, play the game, who broadcast the game, and his just love for everything that was here, and that's what made it great for him, and why he made it great.
Well, I don't know if I can end on anything much better than that. I mean, that's basically Tim Gassen in a nutshell. I want to thank everybody that stepped in to visit with us tonight. Tom Callahan, thanks for coming in like always. Sure. I mean, you were the guy, right? I mean, the people told me, they go, we knew something wasn't right because Tom was doing the shows for him, and Tim would never have let you do it on your own.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, it's an honor to be able to help and to be a part of something that he built.
All right, I need to wrap it up with one more thing because it is Cactus Cup weekend. You're the guy doing the sound for this thing. So tell me about the Cactus Cup and how important would it be for these guys to win it this weekend on Alumni Weekend and just after the passing of Tim Gassen?
Everything that's going on, it's going to be emotional. It's going to be very emotional, and channeling those emotions the right way can be very powerful. And I think that's really what it's going to come down to. I mean, look, if you're a fan and you're thinking, boy, I'd like to go watch a hockey game this weekend, I would recommend this because this is two really good teams, two teams that are playing well and are fired up. And we're heading into the break, so there's no reason not to leave everything on the ice this weekend. I can't think of a better matchup, and what it would mean to do it here at home with the alumni in and just everything going on. I mean, it'd be absolutely tremendous for this U of A program.
Well, I'm going to be listening closely because I want to hear a good call because I think I have to be your critic now.
You may have to. I'm going to put my phone on silent during the game sound. Thanks, Con. All right.
All right, folks. I couldn't leave it without a little bit of humor because Tim Gassen was not only serious in reality, but he was humorous. He was funny. Yes. He always had something good to say, and the U of A program is going to miss this guy. I don't know how you rebound from something like this, but God willing, we all do.
You know what? The show must go on, and Tim would want that, and that's exactly what he would want, is us to pick up and continue to move forward, and that's what we're going to do.
All right, you heard it, Tim. The tribute to you is now over, so we're moving on, and we're going to get this thing done for you.